The influence of polyvinyl difluoride and polypropylene on foreign body reaction, a comparison. Have you ever wondered what actually happens when you, the surgeon, implant a mesh? How does the tissue react to the polymer and the structure? Imagine you are stood on the surface of the mesh and can observe what happens here just a few milliseconds after the latter's implantation. Almost immediately after implantation of the mesh, autologous proteins such as albumin and fibrinogen are absorbed on the surface. The changes to and degeneration of the proteins represents a strong immunological stimulus, in particular for the macrophage, which can be found at the interface just a few minutes after implantation. The macrophage is activated as a result of the contact with the proteins and, in turn, releases messengers which serve to initiate the foreign body reaction. Ever more macrophages are attracted chemotactically to the site, where they form the early foreign body granuloma. It takes only a few hours for the mesh to be enveloped and fully covered by the macrophages. During release of the messengers, other important cells are also attracted, in particular fibroblasts, which are responsible for the cicatricial envelopment of the mesh. Even on day 1, many fibroblasts are present which form an early parafilamentary scar. Both T lymphocytes and polymorphonuclear granulocytes are present, which disappear as the granuloma ages. As the process continues, the number of cells in the granuloma increases, and after 1 week, an early foreign body granuloma can be recognized with its typical layering, in the interior the macrophage layer, and outside the fibrous or cicatricial capsule comprising collagen fibers and a great number of fibroblasts. The foreign body granuloma now starts to age, and there is increased vascularization, a process which is evident after only 2 weeks. Endothelial cells firstly form simple endothelial tubes, which subsequently develop into capillaries. Here, good dense vascularization is proof of the optimal integration of the material in the implant bed. The extent of the foreign body reaction and the extent to which the granuloma envelops the individual mesh fibers essentially depends on the polymer used. The intensity and type of macrophage activity on the surface is closely correlated with the thickness and diameter of the fibrous capsule in the outer granuloma area, the parameter which is of particular importance for the subsequent functioning of the mesh. The foreign body reaction of the PVDF is minimal. Due to the lesser stimulation of the macrophages during implant healing, this polymer results in a significantly smaller granuloma width and fibrous capsule development. In contrast, we have the PP. Here, both the macrophage layer and the peripheral connective tissue capsule are more pronounced. Let's now leave the surface of the mesh and take another look at the implant as a whole from above. Following implantation, the mesh is very quickly covered with proteins, which form the foreign body granuloma and a cicatricial covering around the mesh. The scar capsule is shown in purple here. And again as a cross-section, inside the mesh, then the foreign body granuloma and the outer scar capsule. The comparison of PVDF and PP shows that, given the same suture thickness and pore size with PVDF, the scar capsule is significantly smaller. With PP, there is increased bridging due to scar tissue formation which, in part, completely fills the pores of the mesh. For our PP mesh, this means that the pore structure is essentially lost and that there is a more extensive cicatricial covering around it. In contrast, the PVDF mesh is shown on the left here. For the most part, the poor structure has been retained. Healing of the mesh implant into the abdominal wall with only minimal cicatricial capsule formation is of particular importance to patients. Minimal foreign body reaction and scar formation lead to optimal integration of the implant, and as a result of the reduced level of scarring, the flexibility of the mesh is retained. For your patients, the reduced connective tissue induction of PVDF equates to retained flexibility of the abdominal wall, as well as optimal wearing comfort, with significantly reduced foreign body sensation.